Well, ladies and gentlemen, today we've got some absolutely stunning news coming from across the Atlantic. You see, President Trump just single-handedly saved the United Kingdom with a trade deal that pretty much forced British Prime Minister Keir Starmer to completely overhaul their broken immigration system. During the recent US-UK trade talks, President Trump pressured British Prime Minister Keir Starmer to slam the brakes on the unchecked immigration that's been flooding the UK for years, meaning that now President Trump's America First vision isn't just saving America, it's also working to save the entire Western world. And so yesterday afternoon, Keir Starmer unveiled his new immigration plan mirroring President Trump's approach to immigration here in America. So I want you all to take a look at what Prime Minister Starmer had to say about all of this. Then we're going to have a lot to talk about. Let it play.
These rules become even more important. Without them, we risk becoming an island of strangers, not a nation that walks forward together. So when you have an immigration system that seems almost designed to permit abuse, that encourages some businesses to bring in lower paid workers rather than invest in our young people, or simply one that is sold by politicians to the British people on an entirely false premise, then you're not championing growth, you're not championing justice, or however else people defend the status quo. You're actually contributing to the forces that are slowly pulling our country apart. So yes, I believe in this. I believe we need to reduce immigration significantly.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, that is a lot to unpackage, and we will. But before we do, I want to say real quick that if you guys enjoy the daily news updates, please consider subscribing to the channel because it really does help a ton. But okay, check this out. Prime Minister Keir Starmer's new immigration policy echoes President Trump's America First agenda, prioritizing border control and national sovereignty. The UK is finally waking up, all thanks to President Trump's leadership. Here's the truth. Over the last 20 years, 15 million immigrants have flooded into the United Kingdom, diluting its national identity with catastrophic consequences for British society. As things currently stand, for example, only 36% of Londoners are white Anglo-Saxon British natives, an absolute travesty that President Trump's policies are inspiring Prime Minister Keir Starmer to reverse. The British people, betrayed by the radically progressive globalist elites, never consented to this massive cultural upheaval, just as Americans never consented to the invasion of 20 million illegal aliens orchestrated by the radical progressives here in America. In truth, Prime Minister Starmer's reforms follow President Trump's call to restore power back to the people. And so, going forward, UK skilled worker visas will demand university degrees and a stringent immigration vetting process following President Trump's merit-based approach to legal immigration here in America. This prioritizes elite talent who actually bolster the economy rather than burdening it, ensuring that the UK stops its descent into slowly becoming a third world country. Additionally, now British visas will require English proficiency tests, mandating fluency for all would-be immigrants. This ensures they actually assimilate into British culture, as opposed to isolating themselves into cultural and ethnic enclaves, as they've been doing for years now. The United Kingdom's overhauled asylum policies also now strip away dependent and anchor baby immigration loopholes, emulating President Trump's mission to shut down illegal aliens that have been exploiting our own immigration system here in America. After years of abuse, Britain is finally cracking down on fraudulent immigration claims. And on top of all of that, Britain's new immigration rules makes hiring foreign laborers more costly and more expensive than hiring native-born Britons, prioritizing their domestic workforce, which is exactly what President Trump has incentivized here in the USA. Really, any serious nation should make an effort to prioritize and to protect its own domestic workers over foreign laborers, and so finally, that's exactly what's happening. And then, in an absolutely shocking move, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer denounced the entire open border concept, rejecting the radically progressive globalist agenda that's been controlling Europe for decades now. For the first time in years, we are starting to see countries in the Western world stand up for themselves and say no to all of this open border incompetence. Now, as all of this is happening, the UK's right wing Reform UK party has absolutely skyrocketed in support among the public's outrage over third world immigration. In large part, their meteoric rise has also pressured Prime Minister Keir Starmer to adopt these Trump inspired immigration reforms, proving that nationalism is, in fact, sweeping across the entire Western world. But it can't be understated, the recent US UK trade deal, really a triumph of President Trump's deal making genius, most certainly demanded these British immigration reforms. Trump isn't just making America great again, now he's also saving Europe from radical globalist decay as well. In fact, right wing political leaders in the United Kingdom are praising British Prime Minister Keir Starmer's immigration overhaul as a nationalist victory, crediting President Trump's influence in helping make all of this happen. President Trump's America First blueprint is now a beacon for Western nations that are looking to reclaim their national sovereignty. But in truth, it was really the British people's fury over unchecked immigration from the third world that has ultimately forced Prime Minister Starmer to embrace President Trump's immigration reforms. And their outrage mirrors America's rejection of the radical progressives' open border chaos, ultimately showing that the people still have a voice. So now, pretty much, President Trump's approach to border security and immigration has set a global gold standard on how these issues should be handled. The UK's new policies follow President Trump's exact formula, proving that the America First vision is already reshaping the Western world's approach to protecting national identity and cultural cohesion. And so, folks, here's my opinion. The UK's immigration revolution really signals an upcoming tidal wave of nationalist America First aligned policies. President Trump's leadership is already revitalizing the West, inspiring countries across the world to reject globalism and to reclaim and embrace their own cultural heritage. And also, as another massive component of this US UK trade deal, President Trump also insisted that free speech protections need to be prioritized in the United Kingdom, which in recent years had pretty much become a draconian anti-free speech police state. And so, in summary, this entire situation just sent out a very clear message. The Western world is done withering away under radically progressive globalist policies. We're fighting back, reclaiming our nations, and building a future rooted in national pride as well as cultural homogeneity. And so, you know what? I'll tell you what, folks. President Trump's influence is an absolute global game changer. He's not just saving America, he's sparking a global nationalist revival, compelling leaders like Prime Minister Starmer in the UK to actually prioritize his people instead of all of these incompetent, radically progressive agendas. And so, ladies and gentlemen, this is what America First is really all about. If you want to combat the radically progressive globalists, you've got to combat them across the entire globe, not just here in America. And so that is exactly what President Trump is doing. By leveraging this recent trade deal with the United Kingdom to spark immigration reform in the UK, President Trump is not just making America great again, he's really making the entire Western world great again. And so that, ladies and gentlemen, is exactly why we voted for President Trump. Now, ladies and gentlemen, before we wrap up, I do want to say real quick that we officially have a Morse News Twitter page as well as a Morse News Facebook page. So if you use either of those platforms, please go down below and drop a follow in order to get breaking news updates that relate to everything we talk about here in the YouTube videos. But everyone, that is going to be a wrap for today's video, so please go down below and drop a comment. Let me know what you think about all of this. Please like the video while you're down there, and like I said earlier, please consider subscribing to the channel because it really does help a ton. Thank you all very much for tuning in today, and of course, as always, stay safe.